MGM signed her in 1942. This was a colossal business deal, a standard 7-year contract. The studio had one objective. They manufactured a perfect image. She was elegant, classy, safe, absolutely no threat to white moviegoers. Horne was supposed to prove that Hollywood was finally evolving, that it was open to black stars. But her contract contained a hidden clause. It was brutal. It was cynical. This clause turned Lena Horne from a potential actress into a simple musical cash register. She knew the system had zero interest in seeing her as an equal, but she signed the deal anyway. She decided she would change the movie business from the inside. The real problem was not Lena Horne. It was 15 states across the American South. Their Jim Crow segregation laws ruled the entire film industry. These laws determined exactly what the audience was going to see on the screen, and what they were guaranteed never to see: the star who was cut out. Here is how the system actually worked. A studio is strictly a business operation. The goal was simple: sell the film to every single theater in the US. This had to include the Jim Crow South. In the South, any scene showing black and white people interacting was strictly forbidden. Those laws were absolute. If MGM had cast Lena Horne in a serious, full-length role, Southern distributors would have simply rejected the film outright. The risk was too high. MGM engineered a solution. It was dirty, but it was highly profitable. Lena Horne never played roles. She sang musical numbers. Her segments were shot as standalone, self-contained clips. They were filmed as if they were commercials. She was always wearing an elegant gown. She never once interacted with white leading stars. She stood near a pillar, or maybe just against a beautiful, neutral backdrop. This was done for one reason. It was to simplify the work for local projectionists. Distributors in the South received the film reels. They got her musical number on a separate segment. They would literally take a pair of scissors and splice her out of the movie. It took seconds to erase her entirely. Take the film Cabin in the Sky, for example. Lena Horne truly shined in that movie. But in some southern states, she shone for exactly 12 minutes. Then she was simply gone. The star cut out of her own movies. This was not a figure of speech. It was a literal technical instruction. Hollywood sold her an image of success. But to their business partners, they sold the scissors. But the most disgraceful part? Military theaters did exactly the same thing. American soldiers fighting fascism overseas could not see her perform. Because she was a black woman, segregation followed them right to the front lines. This raw cynicism tortured her. She rightly felt betrayed by the system. She was a stunning storefront window display, but a display that could be instantly removed from the glass. The double life. Horne's public image was consistent: a perfect smile, elegance, and compliance. "I am happy to be here. I am ready to work," she told magazines. She played the game. But backstage, Lena was a warrior. She lived in brutal conflict, her studio contract against her conscience. Inside MGM, she was strictly forbidden to talk about politics. Executives were terrified her activism would make her more excisable. They needed her apolitical, but she would not be silent. She fought back wherever she could. In 1945, she filed a lawsuit against restaurant chains that refused her service. This was in New York City. The problem was everywhere, not just the South. This shocked MGM. They tried desperately to suppress the scandal. Horne openly criticized lynching, a highly dangerous act for a star. She supported the growing civil rights movement, risking everything to travel to rallies. The most infamous incident was in 1945 at a Wisconsin military base. The show was for black GIs. Sitting in the front rows were captured Nazi soldiers. Segregation meant white American soldiers could not sit with the black troops, but the Nazis could. This was a grotesque farce. Horne stopped her song mid-verse. She walked off stage and started throwing chairs. She shouted, "You cannot respect enemy prisoners more than your own loyal soldiers." She kept fighting until the Nazis were removed. The studio demanded a full explanation. She told them, "I cannot sing when I see that kind of injustice." MGM closed its eyes, not wanting to lose their expensive commodity, but the damage was permanent. They added her name to an unwritten list. Lena Horne had officially become problematic. The Golden Cage. A movie studio is a golden cage. You might be warm and comfortable inside, but you are never truly free. Horne's success was highly conditional. Critics adored her work. The audience in the North loved her voice. She was a true pioneer. She was the first black woman on the cover of numerous major magazines at the time. Yet despite all that, she remained a ghost in the system. She could be instantly deleted. She felt the sting of this constant humiliation every single day of her contract. She spoke about it very plainly later in life. She said, "My movie roles were absolutely meaningless. I was just a spot of color that they could easily wipe away." She constantly fought the system for real parts, roles that had a real story, roles that included substantial dialogue. MGM kept handing her the same empty promises. "A big role is coming soon," they would claim to the press. The truth was simple. A major, serious role meant she could not be cut out of the film, and the studio was never ever willing to risk or sacrifice the massive, lucrative Southern box office. There was one key, defining moment in her career. She was nearly cast as the tragic character Julie in the classic film Showboat. This was a character who had always been played by white actresses in blackface makeup. Lena Horne was the perfect, legitimate candidate for the part, but the studio ultimately slapped her down. The official word from the top executives was blunt: "We need a Julie who has zero problems." The word problems was purely coded language. It meant she was far too famous. It meant she was far too black. They were deeply terrified of her political history and her strong, uncompromising character. The highly coveted part was instead given to the white actress Ava Gardner. Gardner, to her credit, respected Horne deeply and was reportedly furious at the studio's racist decision. Lena Horne was permanently relegated to the role of the nightclub queen, always elegantly dressed, always singing just one disposable song. She finally walked away from MGM in 1950. The studio did not reject her. She rejected the entire studio system. She was a star, yes, but her massive fame and potential were permanently held hostage by a simple pair of scissors. The price of freedom. Walking away from Hollywood granted her absolute freedom. She stopped being the studio's object. She immediately became a sovereign subject. But the cost of that freedom was brutally high. In the early 1950s, a new punch landed. The Red Scare had begun, the notorious hunt for suspected communists. Horne was a dedicated civil rights activist. She had been on the FBI's official blacklist since 1941. She was accused of having communist ties. This was simply because she fought so hard for basic human rights. Her entire career in film and early television was immediately terminated. She could not find work. No one called her for auditions. Her name simply vanished from the end credits. Studios refused to associate with anyone under government surveillance. She refused to break under the pressure. She walked straight into the nation's premier nightclubs. She became a live singer. She was real. She was there on the stage. In the clubs, no one could cut her out. She was physically present. She was right there, right now. She released legendary albums. Her signature song, Stormy Weather, instantly became a classic American record. She became an icon for a new generation of activists. She marched side by side with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the March on Washington. She put herself in harm's way when that activism was truly dangerous. She used her fame as a shield, and she used that fame as a weapon. Her political voice grew exponentially louder the moment she escaped studio control. Horne lived a long, powerful life. She stated she never regretted the fight she had to endure. She famously said, "If you are not ready to fight, you do not deserve your place at the table." Late in her life, Horne spoke about her time in Hollywood with simple, brutal clarity. "They wanted to own me," she said, "but they absolutely did not want to see me." That remains the most accurate summary of her entire career. Conclusion and choice. The story of Lena Horne is not simply the story of an actress. It is the perfect blueprint for how the system operates. The system finds talent, it packages the talent, it makes it financially safe for business, and it always retains the option to instantly delete it, because business profit is always more important than truth. We must remember that historic success often carried a hidden price tag. The first black star at MGM, that was the headline. But behind that headline stood a projectionist's knife and the Jim Crow laws. Lena Horne was a genius. She was stunning, but she was far too intelligent to play by MGM's rules. That is why she is remembered today, not just for her songs. She is remembered for the chairs she threw down in protest. That is her real, lasting fame. Her story forces us to consider one question: how honest is the success that the headlines scream about? Can we see this systemic cutting out happening in other ways today? Let us know what you think about this story in the comments below.